Let's talk about what people have learned in terms of what some of the keys to making premium VOD work, or at least get some kind of traction. Things like the user interface, things pricing, being able to market, being able to change pricing and cross-market quickly, three-screen provision, and are people prepared to pay for that? Olivier, I mean, Open is, very front and center in this area.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess what is the key success factor around how to crack VOD? Probably content. I mean, at the end of the day, people are watching. They want premium movies. I mean, it's not all about UGCs. It's about your premium movies, and people are still attracted to blockbusters and premium movies and having the right. I think the Open TV, we've done a lot of work around UI, user interface. We have a user interface ourselves. We partner with lots of companies in that space as well, essentially what we've tried to do with many iteration of our navigation scheme is to really blend the content. No matter where it comes from. It could come from your PVR, it could come from the VOD infrastructure, it could come from over-the-top providers, and really making sure that the television experience is seamless across. Because at the end of the day, the consumer doesn't really care that it comes from a VOD infrastructure or that it comes from an over-the-top provider. So I think navigation and seamless navigation across everything that's available on your TV is key. And then another aspect is not just about doing a pretty graphics, it's also about performance. Nobody's going to wait to if you press your VOD button or your on-demand button on your remote control, nobody's going to wait for 3 or 4 seconds. It has to come, it has to be there. So performance is obviously key. We've seen a lot in many VOD deployment where it was actually difficult or quite clunky to get into the VOD portal. And obviously that has quite an impact on on how people consume videos and the usage rate. So yeah, for in terms of success factor, holding the rights and being able to distribute that and having a very good advanced user interface are keys.
Nuruddin, I mean, search recommendation, is that something that's actually having an effect, or do sometimes people think, actually no, don't tell me what I want to watch?
Well, actually, I talked earlier about the bottlenecks that have been so far on the storage and network. Now we managed to solve more or less these two issues, and we end by having a bottleneck on the TV screen itself for the end user, because the end user now has, in average, hundreds of live linear channels, TVs, and tens of thousands of pieces of video from different video providers competing to gain access to this end user, and very often unable to find content that really match his taste. So clearly the quality of user experience will be key differentiator, and search and recommendation are definitely two challenges that VOD providers have to address to make people easily find content they like. And if you look at the figures, without recommendation solution, for example, the penetration of VOD over a pay TV subscriber base is not more than 10%. So, and the average consumption is somewhere between 2 and 3 pieces of VOD a month. I'm talking about pay VOD, of course, here. And there are some surveys that indicate that with recommendation, especially recommendation solution like ours by Orca Interactive, which connect to social networking, and they would be able to recommend or see what your friends are watching. So that'd be a way to get you in VOD space, and to engage you. We can definitely increase both the penetration of VOD and the VOD usage, hoping to increase from 2 VOD watch per month to 3, 4, which will be a tremendous 33 to 50% increase of usage and therefore of revenues.
So Jobs, what do you say to your clients who say, well, I'm happy to provide all this on demand because I know it's what my customers want, but I really would quite like to sell them something as well. What's most important at the back end and at the front end in terms of helping them to do that?
Right. So I think in general there was a gaining momentum on VoD in general. So obviously network operators started to equip their networks, really moving those networks being more two-way than it has been in the past. So this is something that we see definitely with our customers in areas, not just for telephony and for data services, but also now moving more into video and especially video on demand. I don't think there is one particular point that we can address and basically say this is the reason for success of on demand. But I think what we see is there is a number of points and interesting services that very individually to each network that operators needs to address in order to make the overall platform successful. I think the gaining momentum of on-demand everywhere is also giving a better success to prime content in on-demand. And we've seen it in the past that some networks try to put more free content in order to make people more attractive to the on-demand platform. Some networks tried for a number of years to focus more on subscription VoD services. This has been changed even over the past years, and every network is slightly different, obviously, but it seems that in general, people are getting more used to an on-demand experience in the TV environment, and this is also what we see in general coming up, that people probably in the future will, if they are looking for content, less actually take their TV journal, but understand more recommendation engines and search engines and see that they find it somehow in an on-demand environment.
So Edward, I mean, your experience. I mean, it seems to me there must be some kind of lean forward, lean back dichotomy going on here. As in, the people who tend to pay the subscriptions are more used to consuming television in a lean back environment. Perhaps the next generation coming along will be much more proactive and much more accepting of search and recommendation and social networks, etc.
I think all those bits have a part to play in the on-demand environment. But what we know about customers is they just want to. They want to time shift their content. Only just look at PVRs and how successful those are. So the key thing is that every time they go to their on-demand service, they need to find new and fresh content. Okay, and
that they might pay for.
That they might pay for. But when we talk about paying for content, most people, when they watch TV, they want to sit down and they want to have free at the point of use. Okay, that is not free. That can be part of your subscription package, or it can be part of anything. So they don't want to sit down and buy an asset every time they sit down, especially if it's time-shifted content from whatever. But they're quite happy to upgrade to a new subscription package if you're a pay operator that bundles in that content, and that's how we're seeing the operators really monetize it, is by getting that on-demand content to move customers up those subscription
So you can have
tiers.
a kind of a basic plus tier that says all this kind of on-demand ability.
Yeah, and we've even seen some of the operators increase the subscription on their basic tiers when they put a lot of on-demand content in there, and they're able to do that because they see their churn figures coming down, and so they can then put generate new revenues in there, which maybe push churn figures up a little bit more, but that's the balancing act that they have to play on the revenue figures. But so it really does come down to having the right content, and you need to get your consumers into a position where on-demand is the first place they go when they turn on the TV, and that every time they go there, there's fresh new content that they want to watch. So we're seeing subscribers or customers move from used to go to the EPG, was the first place when you turned on your TV, and now they're going and they go to their on-demand menu and see what fresh content's in there.
So Mark, what is Cisco doing about helping the customer to choose? Because this seemed to be a key fault of early VoD systems, is they thought content was important, but it was kind of important in a quantitative sense rather than a qualitative sense. And so simply saying, we've got 20,000 movies, our VoD system is great, here you go, try and find something that you like. So how do you see being able to define choice better and better for the customer?
Yeah, I would like just to make a small comment. We talk about premium content, which, yes, it's important, but sometimes the problem is that premium content is also very expensive.
Yeah.
And I actually recently looked to Netflix, which is the provider of the physical DVDs, and they recently proposed an online version, which is a complementary, so not replacing, but complementary. And what I find interesting is they have also a recommendation engine, but their recommendation engine is quite clever in the term that by default it will not always recommend a premium movie, but sometimes also in the recommendation algorithm look to their inventory and propose movies which actually are more interesting also for Netflix, because that's where they got better margins, because those movies are cheaper. So I think we have to be careful. Yeah, from a consumer point of view, he thinks about premium because that's what he heard. But with a clever recommendation engine, you might actually reuse some of your more classical inventory. And it seems they are pretty successful in the way that the people actually follow those recommendations.
Just similarly, because this is clearly a key differentiator in our content recommendation system, Compass by Orca. We also recommend content from live TV channels that the end user is subscribing to. It's not just about trying to push the VOD content anyhow. It's also about making the end user feel comfortable about the recommendation, driven more by his taste than by the operators willing to push that specific content up to the point that it may disappoint the end user, because it's at a given time, maybe a movie on a channel that I paid for is better suited for my taste than any of the 10,000 VODs that are in catalog.